A lot of people, especially like my influencer community, they're really critical of you and they would call you a bully.
I'll make it easy on you. I'm bullying these people. And to some people, it's upsetting. In my head, though, yes, I bully these people, and I bully child exploiters, and I bully people who do some of the most atrocious things to kids. I use and I hate to say this, but my gift of snarking in order to use that as a tool to call them out. And yes, it is bullying, and I admit it outright.
Welcome back to another episode of Don't Worry, I'll Ask. Today we have Josh Barbour. Now this is a guy that I've actually watched for a long time. So Josh makes videos on child exploitation. Sometimes he's just making fun of influencers. And he comes from a place of really feeling like he wants to end child exploitation. Now, it's all fun and games until his videos become super mean and borderline hateful. I mean, even in the interview, I tell him like, you are the bully. Like you're bullying people who you think are exploiting kids and doing things wrong, but it feels like there's a fine line here where in a lot of ways you're just being mean. Like I mentioned, I've watched him for a long time, but recently it's just kind of felt like a couple of his videos have just gone too far. We're gonna get into all that. In fact, the best part of this is I feel like he's really open. Like he doesn't have to be so open. I really feel like I challenge him more so than I have with other guests on the show. And I feel like he responds to all the questions and he has a good attitude about it. And I think the reason why he does that is because in his mind, and generally, he comes from a good place, a place that's concerned about kids, a place that sees influencers making money on the backs of their children, and he's trying to end that. And at the end of the day, he's a dad. I'm a dad. And both of us are trying to protect our kids. And in his case, he's trying to be the guy who's forcing other people to protect their kids. Like I said, we get into everything. It's actually a really juicy interview, so I'm excited that you guys have it. And the best part of it is you don't have to worry because I'm going to ask all the questions you can't. Because I'm Isaac Rochelle, and this is Don't Worry, I'll Ask. Enjoy the show. First part of the show, we're gonna do our waste no time segment. All this is meant to do is just to get us lathered, get us right into it, ask a tough question to kind of propel the rest of the conversation. As you can see, I have no notes. I don't go into these with notes, but I do have a question prepared. You are arguably, like in the family vlogger community, I mean, hence the shirt, you are actually like one of the most controversial people because you're calling it out. It's literally your job every single day to do this. My question for you is why you? What qualifies you to be the guy to step in this spot and talk about this and call people out?
It's a good question. I mean, how I started this was a lady named Micah Stauffer, you might know her, adopted a kid from China, and it was a big, giant scandal. She rehomed him on Facebook. It was this massive thing. And the only reason I started talking about it is because I myself am an adoptive dad, and I had a podcast with a couple of dads, and this was just a hot topic for parents. And I jumped in on it because I'm like, not only was I upset about it, obviously as an adopted dad, but I was just like, how can this exist? This is way before I even considered family vlogging or child exploitation or any of those types of things. And I just jumped in and talked about it. And it became basically my online identity. And then I started understanding how the sausage is made. I actually myself, early in my channel, would do parody videos that have my children in them. I filmed the birth of my children, not for the internet, not for social media or anything like that, but I did put them on the internet for our friends and family. And early in my channel, we would even invite some of these dads from these family vlogger channels to come on our podcast to talk about being influencer dads. So way before I even understood the ramifications of child exploitation, I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. And so when I started talking about it, something clicked in my brain, and then it became something, I guess, for lack of a better term, that I became obsessed with. I became obsessed with the exploitation of children online and why it was going on and what we could do to stop it.
It's interesting because it's been like a 180, right? That goes without being said because you just explained it. But there's also this piece where it's like we're all content creators. We're all chasing likes. We're all chasing, growth in our audience. And I'm not going to call you a family vlogger, but you didn't care about it. And then you had one video about family vlogging that blew up. How much of it was conviction at the time versus, oh wait, this is actually just content that does really well?
Yeah, interesting. Good question. I didn't actually think or consider that it was content that I was being paid for. I wasn't monetized. I was just talking about it because it was an interesting segment that we weren't bringing into the podcast with the dads, and I was upset about. But then I just popped over to YouTube to do it because I'm like, hey, I'm going to talk about this. I did not consider this content as in like, how can I make this and make money doing it? Again, I wasn't monetized. I don't know why I turned that camera on that morning and talked about this. I was just, the only thing I could say, and if you watch it, it's still on my channel. The only thing I could say was I was just super pissed. I just couldn't believe that a human like this could exist. And I had to, for some reason, shout it to the universe, because growing up, if you watch my story on my channel, you'll see that I was very abused and bullied and everything else. And I never got justice for any of the shit that happened to me when I was a kid. And for some reason, I absolutely hate injustice, and I love to see other people get the justice they deserve. And I don't know if that's a problem or if it's a heart issue, but that's kind of where this went. I wanted to call this person out in the way that I normally would. And I did not expect to be monetized. I did not expect it to go viral. I just did it out of, I don't know, a necessity of my heart. I have no idea why I did it.
Well, it's crazy because, I mean, whatever you did then, it's like people say you're living in 2030. Like, you were obviously living ahead, because obviously now family vloggers are called out all the time. Just the nature of it. California just changed their laws, which you and I would both agree is not enough. By the way, 15% allocated to your kids is not enough if that's your channel. But you were way ahead of your time. The thing that stood out to me, though, is the word bully, right? Because I owe it to my audience to have, for this to be a tough conversation for you, because a lot of people, especially like my influencer community, they're really critical of you, and they would call you a bully, right? Because obviously, like, you're really critical of a number of influencers. I mean, I'm just going to kind of pause because I want you to talk about that, because I guess real quick to sum it up, there's a fine line, right? Where it's like, I'm going to call them out, yada, yada, yada. But then there's this other side where it's like, no, some of it can feel mean. And I just want you to talk about some of the nature of the things you're doing.
I'll make it easy on you. I'm bullying these people. And to some people, it's upsetting, right? And it took me a long time to actually come to that phrase in my mind, that I bully child exploiters, okay? So yes, some people will say bullying is wrong at every level, and I myself was absolutely tormented and bullied. So I understand what it's like to be bullied.
I was too, by the way.
And so people like us, we understand it. In my head, though, yes, I bully these people, and I bully child exploiters, and I bully people who do some of the most atrocious things to kids. But in my opinion, it's, how do you say this? It's like the bully bullying the bullies, I suppose. It's a bully that, it's like, think of what's his name, Dexter, who only kills serial killers. Okay, he's a bad guy. He's a terrible person because he's killing people, but he only kills the bad people, right? I sort of am the Dexter of family vlogging. So I bully the people who I think are doing bad things, right? And in the end, I can be mean, yes, and I have said some damn mean things, of course, but I honestly believe that I could be way meaner. I think a lot of the stuff I say is surface level roasting. It's lighthearted. And in the end, I think, and you had Kira on your show, I actually think that I would have a really great conversation with Kira. I don't hate Kira. I think what she's done is stupid. I think what they did initially to get their wealth and all that was stupid. But I don't actually truly in my heart hate any of these people, like the word hate. Do you know what I mean? Where you're like, I want to hurt you, or I want to like, it's not how it really is. I use and I hate to say this, but my gift of snarking in order to use that as a tool to call them out. And yes, it is bullying, and I admit it outright. There is no other way to put it. I am doing that.
It's funny too, because the word snark, I swear I had never heard that word until I was watching your channel, and it's like, you always say snark, and then the snark threads, and then it's just snark everything. My question for you is, where do you see the line, right? Like where is the point where you're like, okay, I actually need to dial it back? That was a little aggressive.
It just happened a couple times on my channel, and I'll be completely honest with you. I was talking about someone, Bits of Brie. I call her Bits of Bish. Where on her channel, I was like, I need to see how close she is to a target. So I brought up where she lived on a map, and I mapped out where she was to target. And I'm like, as I look back on it, and I was called out by the people that I trust, I was called out by my fans and my followers. And I took a step back. I'm like, that was stupid of me to do that. It was really, really dumb of me to do that. I've done some stupid things, not thinking. And I've apologized, I've erased those videos and done the things I need to do. But one of the things that I have done, and I think I'm glad I've done this, and I won't go too far. There's a family vlogger there called Our Life, and she came out with this video that her husband had cheated on her, and I don't like the Our Life. Okay, like my vanilla roasts come from her husband Daniel, and I roasted him a lot. I roast them. They're just terrible people. She's a terrible person. I just think that they're absolutely garbage human beings. But she dropped a video where you could completely tell that this was destroying her and her family, unless it was fake. It was very good acting, but you could tell this had destroyed her. And so I messaged her because and I was like, look, I'm not going to cover this crap. This is just not something that, I mean, that's a terrible thing for him to do. And I hope it comes on the other side. And she appreciated it. There has been times where I have done videos on people where I think to myself, man, I don't want that to go too far. I don't want them to take it too seriously. And I will reach out to any of these people, and I'll be making sure that, hey, just so you know, I don't actually hate you. This is we have to exist in a dichotomy, and this is the industry we work in. I am the antithesis of what you do, and I am here because of what you do. And unfortunately, what you do has created a literal cottage industry of people like me, and we have to exist together. It doesn't mean that I think that you should die or you should go to jail. Some people have done some crazy shit, but I don't honestly truly hate these people, but I don't think I want to take it too far. If I see something in a creator that I'm like, oh, I'm going too far, I will dial that back. I am very in tune with how I'm perceived to them as well, and what's going on in their lives, for sure.
Then let's take a step further. Tell me about another time, other than the Target situation, where maybe a conversation had happened after you snarked on somebody where you were like, I actually really regret that. Has there been times where you've apologized to creators and just been like, I am sorry? Doesn't mean you're going to change your behavior, but just where you've said like, I'm sorry.
I don't think I've apologized to anybody. I'm trying to think. Early on in my channel, I did I used to take pictures of these influencers, and I would shrink their hands and make their head big. I don't know why I was doing it, just an extra little bit of snark. And Erin Williams had reached out to me, and she ended up being pretty cool about the whole thing. I did a video on her and her racism and everything else, and we actually started having conversations. And because she had reached out to me and we were having honest conversations about the industry and what she was doing, I dialed it back a bit. I don't think have I ever apologized? I did have a conversation with Kira about someone had leaked her address to me, and I said, hey, just so you know, your address is already leaked, and I just want you to know that it's out there because I think you should know, and I'm not going to put it out there. And so we had a conversation. She asked me, she's like, why are you this person online that's super mean, but then in here in these conversations, you're kind of nice to me? And I'm like, it's just because I am still human. I understand that you're still human, but I have never apologized to an influencer that I've called out, but I have apologized to one of the daughters from the Weiss Life, because I interviewed her dad, and he ended up being one of the worst things I've ever done as far as not checking who he really was. And so I had to publicly apologize to her for giving him a platform, because he was a prick. He was garbage. And so I have done that, but not to an influencer. I don't think I've taken it too far, not that I think of anyway.
Well, I mean, listen, for you to do what you're doing and be as, what I'll call as aggressive as you're being, you have to feel invincible, or else it doesn't work. Like, you have to kind of fully commit to it. An interesting thing you said, though, is the word platform. A lot of people are going to be like, Isaac, why are you platforming Dad Challenge podcast? Like, especially creators that you've snarked on. Mm-hmm. What do you say to that? Because that's going to be something I'm going to deal with as soon as I post this.
Look, I know having me on your podcast is going to raise some eyebrows. You're going to get some flack, and I understand that. But I just think it, I don't know how to explain this, but this is an industry that we both exist in. And I think that most people see, how do I say this? Like in sports, I guess the only way I can connect it to you is like in sports and football, you've got on-field guys and teams that you're diametrically opposed to. You butt heads, but there's this underlying industry professionalism that exists amongst you, if I'm not mistaken, right? So there's a mutual respect. Sometimes, not all the time, I'm sure there isn't, but there is this mutual respect that you do the same thing. I don't think I'm respected, obviously not, and I don't respect what they do, but I think that most of the ones who have been in this industry long enough understand that I exist and I'm inevitable, and that I'm not actually like the worst thing that's ever happened, because a lot of them have actually agreed with me. I've had a conversation with one recently. I did a video about it. I won't say his name, but he agrees with me, but he just doesn't, he's like, yeah, but I don't care. This is how I make my money. And so
interesting.
I think there's this underlying not respect, that's the wrong word, but like a mutual understanding that we exist in the same space, especially with people who are bigger in the industry. They know that I exist to be who I am, and some of them watch me for entertainment as well. They have admitted to me that they watch me and the ones that I do on them, and they love it. So that's, I don't feel invincible though. To a degree, I know that what I'm doing, I follow the rules of obviously fair use. I follow the rules of my country's, slander and libel laws. I won't make up lies about people. I will only give my opinion on things. And I have been, especially with Dr. D Dozen, they've attempted to sue me something like 4 times. I am not invincible.
Wow.
And I know that eventually someone will have the balls and want to spend the money to try to take me down. But I will fight to the end because I know that what I'm doing is maybe not right, moral on every step of the way, but it has a purpose. It's petty with a purpose. I snark to raise awareness. I do this because it's the tool that works for me. And I think in this industry, in the anti-family vlogger industry, I hate to float my boat, but I consider myself the loudest voice in this field.
I mean, I think that's very fair to say. I mean, outside of literal law and like a politician being like, hey, we're changing law, I don't know who else is more consistent talking about it. Which is another interesting point because people, I mean, again, a lot of my colleagues is what we'll call them, would just say like what he's doing is just as bad, right? Like he's sitting here making videos about our videos. If everybody stopped family vlogging, you would not have a job, which you've talked about wanting to happen, right? Like you wouldn't be mad about that, obviously. But it's kind of this weird energy, right? Like you said, it works together. So it's like, and that if you look at it like that, where it's this dichotomy like you described, is everybody wrong, right? Is it just all this game where like it has to keep going?
Yeah, you're right too. And I get a lot of pushback, especially from my snark thread and my haters and stuff like that. And I say haters loosely, like I understand why they don't like me. I get it. And this whole argument of secondary exploitation is something that, I have mulled over multiple times in my brain. I'm like, man, if it's true that what I'm doing is also considered exploitation, then at least we all agree, right? That exploitation is wrong, right? So a lot of people will say, hey, you're exploiting these kids too, which I'm not, by the way. In my opinion, I'm really not talking about the kids that often. Very, very rarely. They'll come into the picture as in they are the victim, but I don't like snark on the children. It's obviously always the parents who I'm talking about. But they'll say, well, you'll put them in your video, they'll be part of it. But I mean, then every news broadcast and everybody who's ever talked about anything, especially when it comes to children, then they are all guilty of exploitation. And it is what it is. It's this big cycle. It's because they don't have another argument. Right. But what I say to that is that, like, if you think that that's wrong, especially those people who do it, and then like Kyler Fisher says that all the time. He says, oh, you're just exploiting my kids too. He says it in the documentary. He says, you're exploiting. But then all I have to say to that is, well, then we agree that exploitation is wrong. Right. And then we'll start from that basis and we move on from there. But I don't exist in this world as the way I exist without the exploitation of children, which sucks that I have to exist to be their Voldemort. That's the only way this works. If they don't exist, then I don't exist in that world. I mean, I'll just pivot to something else. I'll make fun of influencers or something. But again, the origins of my story, especially on YouTube, were never about like, how can I make money on here? How can I get a platform? It was never about that. And I know everybody's going to be like, no, even though it turned into that, I didn't get on that camera that first day to talk about Micah thinking, oh, I'm going to go viral with this. I did not have any of those inclinations in my brain.
Look, it's interesting. And it is this weird world where there's some validity to what people say. And you just described that. What I will ask, too, to be more specific is, you've walked the line when you think about Dr. D Dozen. We'll use them as the example. Like, I think of Alex, right? Her oldest son, who's now on social media. It's Alex, correct?
Yep.
I feel like he is somebody that's almost been a little bit of a target of some of your snark for a while. And he's tweener phase, right? Like, I think he's like 18, 19. But like somebody could say, hey, Josh, like, why are you talking about this guy? This dude's a little kid. And even at 18, I would argue he's still a little kid.
Yeah. No, you're right. It's something that I do think about a lot, especially when it comes to Alex from Dr. D Dozen and the content that he puts out there. Sometimes it's just hard to not be like, stop licking your lips, man. And sometimes it's almost like it's like how do you say this? It's like an open letter to Alex to be like, man, don't go down the same path your mother went down, because this is going to be your reality. You became, a lot of people are asking what a lol cow is. You know what a lol cow is?
No.
An LOL. Okay. An LOL cow is basically a person on the internet who is the cow, and they are milked for laughs. They are on the internet because they exist for people to make fun of them. And that is what Alex has become. And that's what Doherty does on the internet. If you've ever seen the viral clip, that's the Black Santa napkin, that's Doherty does. And they've become the laughing stock. And Alex, because this is all he's ever been taught by Alicia and has been encouraged by her to do these things, has himself become a lolcow. And you're right. He is a victim of his circumstance, but now that he's an adult and this is just the reality of it, he has a choice to make, right? He has a choice to be like, look, I want to get out of this toxic cycle that my mother has put me in, but he's decided to go the other way and be like, you know what, I'm just going to do this because this is the only way I know how to make money. And this is going to be very detrimental for his future. I honestly believe that, because he's going to regret when his prefrontal cortex fully develops and he becomes an adult, and it's going to take him a lot of years, probably well into his 30s, I think. He's going to absolutely fully regret the shit that he's put on the internet. And again, I exist in this space.
I think a lot of people are, by the way.
Yeah, no, I imagine that when we grew up, the stuff that we did when we were teenagers on the internet, okay, we would be completely like, oh my gosh, the 80s and 90s and early 2000s was a wild west of being a shithead as teenagers specifically. And the fact is that these kids are on the internet existing in a place where that's a dangerous place to be. So when Alex is sitting on the toilet doing a video for somebody, what do you call those things? Cameo, and that goes viral. You're right. It's funny. I don't think that Alex deserves to be bullied. I don't think so. But he has to understand that now he exists in this world and he's going to be a big part of it. He can't even go down the boardwalk with his brother. Well, it's not really his brother, with Deshaun, and they are mobbed and pushed around. It's going to end badly for them. And so maybe my thing is, yes, I'm being mean, but it's also almost like an open letter to Alex to be like, Alex, come on, man. Don't be this person, because this is about to be your reality. And it's not just me. I don't talk about Alex every day. I've done maybe 2 or 3 videos about it, or I talk about him in passing in the videos. But if you go on TikTok right now and type in Big Red or Alex Doherty, tell me what you see, because it's absolutely mind-blowing that he is bullied by literally hundreds of thousands of people on the internet. And that's because of the choices he's made, what Alicia has taught him to be.
Look, there's so many parts of that I agree with. Because look, like as you know, we don't show our daughter. I am like very adamant about that. And I have a couple reasons why I don't do it. But you're exactly right. Like, I don't need Scotty being 18 and people have already created this perception of her and they've already created this narrative for her. That's not my job to do. Now, if she came to me and she had never been on the internet and she's 16 and she's like, look, I want to start like showcasing let's say she's like a runner and she's like, I want to showcase my running. Sure, I would help her and support her in that. Mm-hmm. Even if she was under 18, I would be happy to give her the game plan. But there's definitely a world, and I'm not going to speak to Doherty doesn't specifically, but just in general, where these influencers just create this narrative for their kids. I mean, you see influencers literally just showing their kids and doing voiceovers of them. Like, you're just creating this personality for your kid, and it's really, really dangerous. And I'll say this, and I would love to hear your opinion. One of the main reasons why I don't show Scotty is because I know for a fact, if I go grab my daughter right now and just hold her up in this vlog, or this podcast, it's going to do better, right? Like, I know that people just are like leeches to kids. And I would hate being in a position where like, I knew it was going to do better and I posted it because of that. And then that's just like my perfect daughter that I don't think anybody deserves to see her. Now I'm using her, literally exploiting her in leverage for more likes. I think it's gross. I don't want to go down that path. So I don't know. I want your opinion on that, but it's just dangerous. It's a slippery slope.
That's some of the fundamental arguments that I have on my channel for this. It's like the basics to start here. It's the privacy concerns for your children, right? Initially, right off the top, the internet has changed. The video I'm putting out tomorrow, which is whatever the day I filmed it, but I had an aha moment today. Okay, we're putting out this thing about our kids. They do not get privacy. There's no moments that they have, and you're selling it to the internet for everybody to have, and they don't get a say in it. And so that goes double though, especially for kids who are adopted, by the way, what if they don't want the world to know they're adopted? Like, as an adopted dad, a lot of kids do. They do use that, and they're like, hey, I'm adopted. They're proud of it. It's nothing to be ashamed of, I don't think. But what if you don't want the people to know when you had your period? What if you don't want people to know when you shaved your legs, or your first date, or when you broke your arm, or your favorite food, or where you go to school, or what if you don't, and most of these kids don't have a say in all that stuff, right? So what you're doing is you're giving your daughter the gift that all these people can never take back. They can never give their children the gift of privacy ever again, because the internet exists forever. And two, the change so prolifically in the last year alone in artificial intelligence has made it so dangerous to put any child's picture or voice on the internet. And I'm talking, the artificial intelligence is moving at a speed unlike any other technology we've ever seen before. And you can take a picture of a child, one image of that child doesn't need to be 3D, and you can turn it into whatever you want. And they are doing that.
Yeah. Well, no, it's an issue. I was just at the White House a month and a half ago, and one of the major issues that we were talking about is a group of creators talking to congressmen, and one of the major issues was it's called deepfake, like where you impersonate somebody, just what you're describing. It's terrifying. I don't know. That's not something that keeps me up at night. It's just not. And it doesn't, because I don't show my daughter anyways, so I don't think about it. But hearing that it happened one time is enough for me to at least think twice about showing my daughter, right? And it's crazy that people hear that information and don't go, do I really want my like perfect little daughter, for that to ever be the case? If it's 1 in a bajillion chance, I don't want that to happen once. I mean, yeah, it's wild.
Let me be devil's advocate for a second, because this is something we don't get to talk about often, right? So you don't need to exploit your child to make any money. You guys have you have a very successful NFL career. Your wife's a very successful influencer. You guys do this. You never needed your daughter ever to do it anyway, which is amazing, and much respect to you for making that choice, regardless of why you made the choice. Okay. So that's why I follow you. That's why I respect you. It's amazing you do that. But on the other hand, you've got some people on the internet, especially on TikTok, that are emerging who are clearly poor as dirt. Okay, they literally have nothing else. They're likely on welfare. They can't make any. They have no discernible transitional like gifts to give, and they don't work. They have never, and they choose to do this, and they make enormous amounts of money doing it. I have wrestled with this question so many times. Is that okay to do if you literally have no other way to make any money to feed your children? Is this then an acceptable way to do it? I wrestle with that question every day, because I grew up it's so poor. And if my mother did that and it changed our life, I would be okay with it.
It is interesting though, because you're right. Objectively, a kid, if their parents decided to exploit them, they have nothing, they have 0 followers on social media, and they're just like, I'm just going to family vlog. If they started to make more money, they could give their kid a better life, objectively. Yep. I mean, what do you think about that? Because obviously, it's what I wrestle with every day, because there are some people out there who I know are doing that, and they've given their kids and they've reached out to me, and I've been like, yeah. But I guess then the answer to the question is that, okay, you get to exist in this world, but I also exist in this world. And so you have to take the bad with the good. And a lot of people want the good. And when the bad comes along, they're just like, privacy. I need privacy, or respect our privacy this time, when they have never respected their children's privacy at all, which is a live stream I did yesterday of Emily Kaiser, whose husband now might be facing criminal charges for this drowning thing. It's one of the saddest stories I've covered so far. And I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. But the reality is, she didn't give him privacy in life, and now all of a sudden wants all this privacy and wants to avoid accountability. This kid now exists emblazoned on the internet, his life and death, for everybody to see and pick apart, including news, including podcasters, including us, including everybody. And you have to know that if you're going to do this, regardless of your reasoning, which is always money, by the way, that you are going to exist in a world where you no longer ever get privacy ever again, and you cannot ask for it. And some of them are like, they demand it. And then they'll be like, you've got people on the internet who are split. They're like, yeah, they deserve privacy. No, if you make your living on the internet, including people into your lives who often you call family yourself. Hey, welcome to our family. We love you. How many influencers have you heard say, I love you guys. We love you. Do you really love these people? Yeah.
And so you can't have that type of relationship, and then all of a sudden when shit hits the fan, walk away and be like, privacy, please. It just doesn't exist. So when you put your family into this world, and they all know this, okay, you no longer get that. That's just gone. And your kid never gave consent to be able to be put in that universe ever, and never will be able to.
This is a great segue, because it's something I wanted to talk to you about. So the Emily Kaiser situation, which, by the way, I know her, I know Brady, I know their family relatively well. I have, and I'm going to be ultra transparent here. I've watched so many of your videos, right? You know this. I've told you that.
Mm-hmm.
I also fully agree that kids should not be exploited. That goes without being said. That was the one time when you made the first video on Emily Kaiser where I was like, I don't know if I can support this.
Yeah.
And the reason was, I just felt like it was a space and time in social media where it's like, look, can we put aside all the business? You know, I got annoyed by anybody making videos on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt like it was a time where when I was watching you, I was like, dang, this actually does feel like he's exploiting that situation.
Yep.
And I just want to pause and let you respond to it.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that. It's happened a couple of times on my channel. We exist in a space. Sometimes we have to have uncomfortable conversations, and that the Emily Kaiser situation to me, I'd never had never covered any of her content before. I'd never even heard of her. For me, this was a really, and I know this is not going to be enough for you, and that's okay. This was a conversation that needed to happen, that needed to exist in this space because of the privacy concerns. This has happened to me more than once too, and so many people have reached out to me about this specific case. There's two moms, and they had a kid with Sanfilippo syndrome. And I have never gotten more hate in my life than covering these two moms who have their kid with Sanfilippo syndrome on their channels, who raise awareness, which I agree with. Who it's a really rare disease, and I understand that you want people to be able to catch it early, and there might be this, but Sanfilippo syndrome is a terminal disease for children, and it's just the way it is. There's no cures for it or anything like that, and so these people would bring out their kids daily and grow to millions of followers and ask for RVs and start getting ad reads and everything else. There's a transitional thing that happens for me where I'm like, man, the one thing that really upsets me the most is that, and this, again, this is the fight I'm having with the Emily Kaiser situation in my heart, is that people who have miscarriages, whose children die, and they absolutely capitalize on it in their own content of the people whose children died, right? And people's children who are dying, or people's children who have autism, who are nonverbal, or who have some kind of crazy disease that makes it so they, you know, you're looking at something that you feel guilty that you shouldn't even be looking at. You know what I mean? When your parents tell you to not gawk at the person in the wheelchair at the grocery store, and you gawk at it, where this is, right, they're allowing you to gawk at it, right? And that's why they have so many followers. But you're right. The Emily Kaiser situation, again, like I said, I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. And maybe there's something you're saying there that is truthful, is that maybe in that existent time, maybe there is time that we as humans come together and we just let it sit until it kind of settles. And maybe you're right. And that's something I fight with for certain topics all the time. And you're right. And I think you are right about that.
Look, and this is the point of these conversations, right?
Yep.
And I think it's good to be had. It was just the one time where I just had that feeling. And it's complicated too, because there's a piece of it where it is your job, right? Like, you are reporting on these things, and now I don't even want to say like, oh, you saw an opportunity and took it. It's just for your conviction, whether people agree with it or not. For your conviction, you felt like that was something that needed to be talked about, and in a weird way, maybe you even felt like the untimeliness of talking about it was more effective, if that makes sense.
Maybe,
which again, maybe you're right. I agree with that, but
maybe you're right that I still could have had the conversation when it was all said and done, right? Maybe the conversation didn't need to be happening, but I mean, we all fall, especially as content creators who are, when things fall into your lap, when stories break, yeah, we cover them. It's important to be at the forefront of that. It's one of the this is why I don't consider myself a journalist. I'm not a journalist. Being at the forefront of some of the most terrible stories, I bet you some people who have to cover these things as part of their job and they get paid to do it. Yeah, there's some sleep loss. There's got to be, like, when I'm sitting here thinking of the Emily Kaiser thing, I'm thinking of myself as a father, and I'm thinking to myself, if that was my child, like, I did put myself in a position like, oh my, you'd never see me again, first of all. But like, right. I'm not heartless. I'm trying to say that I'm not heartless. And I know a lot of people think that I am. And I understand why that too. So, but yeah, it's something I do wrestle with 100%.
Look, it's a good combo. I don't even want to keep talking about it because of, you know, the intensity of the situation. I'll move on to this, and then this will kind of take us to our last points. But first off, side note, I do feel like I don't know if you're PR trained, but you give quality answers to some of these tough questions. A lot of people, we have interviewed somebody who you would know that I asked this individual a lot of questions, And there was moments where they were like, we can't talk about that. And you definitely are the opposite of that, where you're welcoming some of these more difficult topics, which I do appreciate a ton.
Yeah. Well, I live and breathe this thing. So like, if I don't have the answers, then I shouldn't be doing this.
No, you have to. And you live in a lot of ways, you live in a glass house, like in your own form of it, right? Mm-hmm. Because you don't show people everything, but you do. Like, you welcome judgment, and you have to. I do. Look, I'm going to post you, and I'm going to welcome judgment. I post politicians and welcome judgment. Mm-hmm. So obviously you're covering child exploiters. That's the goal of your channel. But I can name, for instance, Matt Howard, right? Matt Howard doesn't show his kids, right? But you will make a Matt Howard snark video. How are you walking that line of like, I'm just going to make fun of somebody? And again, like in a mean way, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people look at it and be like, that's mean.
No. And I'm laughing because tomorrow's video is Matt Nabby. I just got done an hour ago doing a video on Matt Nabby. Here's the thing about Matt Nabby. And I know you might not believe me. I actually don't mind Matt Nabby as much. I love the decision that they made to take their kid off. Although they haven't really fully embraced it completely, that's fine. That's not really why I come after them. Matt Nabby, they exist in this in-between world of influencer culture, which I hate, some of it, not all of it. And they exist in this world of platforming child exploiters and not having a problem with it, but not doing it themselves, but platforming others who do it and giving them a platform to, like K and Tay and all that kind of stuff. I honestly, truly in my heart believe that Matt Nabby, I don't think that they're evil at heart like some of the people that I do cover. I don't think that they're intentionally dickheads. I don't think that they think. I think that Matt is aloof about a lot of it, or he's just playing it really well and he's good at it. But I honestly have a lot more respect for Abby than I do for Matt, and you'll see that if you watch my next show on them, because Abby, I do believe, thinks she understands the garbageness of all of this, and she's just kind of been roped into it by Matt. And if she had her choice, she'd live a normal life in a little home, being a teacher where Matt does his little thing, and she would be happy either way. And I have a lot of respect for Abby that way. Matt, not so much, because I know Matt's he wants that. He wants it so badly. He's willing to do whatever it takes to get it. And it's more of a conversation than hatred. Does that make sense? He's more of a person that I'm using as a place that's like, okay, this is the person that's driven towards this so badly that he'll do anything, including throw his wife under the bus, including do crazy things like leave children in a cruise cabin and like do the cancellation thing. So he's a conversation around all the weird parts of influencerism. That's really what they are to me. And I do actually respect Abby more than Matt, if that means anything.
Where do you draw the line then? Like with making fun of influencers? Because again, like, if Doherty doesn't said, hey, we're not showing our kids anymore,
yeah,
the odds that Dad Challenge podcast dropped a Doherty doesn't video would be 101%.
Oh.
Like, you would still snark
100%. If she,
so where do you, well, even Kira, we got to be specific. Kira she doesn't show her kids at all anymore.
Yeah. And
but Kira is still present on your channel.
Absolutely. So a lot of these people, and I've made this promise to everybody that I cover. Okay. And I will, if you take down every piece of content with your children and your kids no longer exist on the internet in your platform. Like if Doherty did it and took every single video about her children down off of her platform, I would tomorrow delete my videos about her. I would do it. Kira, for all intents and purposes, the commentary about Kira switched from family vlogging and exploitation, which she still does, by the way. She still does, to the darker side of family vlogging and the relationships that they have. So part of what I cover on here is not just child exploitation. That's a big part of it, but who the parents are as far as the content is concerned. So I think it's really dangerous. And I talked about this in a video recently it's coming out tomorrow. It's about Matt Nabby, about this idea that we are being shown some really dangerous shit on the internet when they are showing you just the perfect side of life. Okay. I honestly believe it's the downfall of men at some point, because women who are following other women influencers who live these perfect little lives, they think that that's normal. You and I are married, but not to each other, but we're married. We know that marriage is hard. We know that it's not what they show on Instagram ever. Yeah. It's never, ever going to be that way, but we are being shown this. And we are being taught, especially women, and my daughter who's coming up, she's 12 years old. She's interested in this stuff. She's not on social media and she won't be till she's 16, but I know that her friends are being influenced like this. They're being shown something that doesn't exist. Okay. And they're expecting that in life. And then when they don't find it, they're encouraged when they're complaining about it on the internet, to divorce, to break up, to do these things, when that's just regular life. The same thing exists in family vlogging content, where you're seeing this family dichotomy, this existence that is absolutely fake. And these kids are seeing two worlds. They're seeing their parents when the camera's on and when the camera's off. And that's absolutely detrimental and traumatizing. And there needs to be studies about this. But when it came to Kira, she did the whole, the person that they had the threesome with came into my chat and spilled the tea, and she was that big okay baby figure in my channel, and it became the tea side of things. But the reality of these people is who they are. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes any sense. So there is, yes, child explorers, and maybe she's changed her mind on certain part of it, and I think so. And I think Oscar's considering changing his mind on that stuff, which I'm not cool with. But yeah, there's that side, but there's also this side of who they really are. And we need to know that. Does that make sense? We need to know that they are not who they are showing you who they are. And you need to understand that you'll never be able to stack up against what they're showing you, because the reality is they're this person here who sleeps with their best friend's husband who worked for them. You know what I mean? So that's that side of Kira. Yeah. If she decided to like completely erase everything about her kids, not show them ever again, I would absolutely consider it. Yeah.
It is interesting though, because naturally, like when I think about like people's comments on even that answer, they're gonna go, it's kind of contradictory, because it's like if they take them off, I'll stop talking about them, but it's still who they are, so I'm gonna keep talking about them. Does that make sense?
No, I hear what you're saying. Yeah,
it's a little complicated. Yeah.
And if Kira actually did take down her content with all of her kids in it, and she did do that, like people said that she did and she didn't, by the way, then yeah, I mean, I would absolutely feel called out, and appropriately so. But I think that she hasn't. And so, yeah, I'll capitalize on that moment, and still, because I still like that conversation about influencer culture that she gives me. Does that make sense? I don't know if it does, but yeah, I understand what you're saying though.
Yeah. Well, no, I can promise you this, Josh. Let me say this, preface this by saying this. Kira has done a much better job. I will wholeheartedly say that. She should be proud of the decision that she's made to make the jump that she's made. Yep. Matt and Abby, I know Matt. I don't know Abby. He's a cool guy. Like, I appreciate who he is and his grind and all that. What I will say is you are not going to run out of people to talk about, because people are not taking their kids off the internet. I mean, people are running to their cameras to show their kids. And when you look at it, you look at all these different influencers. Is there somebody that you think about all the time where you're like, that person, like they really need to stop. They're at risk. And this is not a good situation.
Let me give you an example of something that happened early in my channel. I found some analytics for the family, the LeBrant family, specifically the daughter Everly. I paid for analytics on a place called socialbook.io. These analytics cost me $850, okay? Insane amounts of money, because these analytics are what people, like companies, pay for to see if the person that they want to spend money on is worth the value. And so that gives you the engagement analytics of the channel. Early on my channel, was one of my biggest videos. I just put in Everly LeBrant, and I found that through her 7 million followers, over 70% of them were adult men over the age of 35. Watching a girl who was 7 years old in leotards doing dances. Why was the engagement analytics 70% literal middle-aged adult males? And that exploded to the point where Social Book banned me from their site and sent me legal letters saying, you can't use this content for this. I'm like, well, I paid for it. And I didn't take it down. But that Everly LeBrant is, I think, is the most in danger influencer children on the internet because of the following that she has. I think there's too many parasocial relationships. I think in their following, there's too many predators, and I proved it. Like, I didn't prove they're predators, but why would Isaac, would you go on Instagram and look at a little girl dancing in leotards? Men who are normal don't do that. We don't look at little girls in leotards. Why are there, like, that was something like 3.9 million adults over the age of 35 looking at a 7-year-old girl in dance tights. To me, that was one of the biggest moments in my channel early that solidified it all for me. And then I started going hard against these people.
I mean, that sounds like my worst nightmare, to have those type of analytics looking at my daughter. And you know what? I can go to sleep at night and I can say the analytics are 0 men, 0 women. Nobody's looking at my daughter. That's right. And this is my conviction. And I truly feel this way. I look at my daughter every time I see her. I say, I love you so much. And I go, God, she's so perfect. And I really don't believe anybody deserves that. Like, nobody deserves her. She's going to get married one day and I'm going to be like, whatever dude she's marrying, you don't deserve her. You better count your blessings, because you don't deserve this girl. And to think that the opposite could be so true, where it's like millions of people now feel like they deserve your kid.
Amazing point.
Seems like a nightmare situation.
That's an argument too. I hear.
That being said,
that's an argument I hear a lot from family vloggers too. They're like, you know, my kid's just amazing and they're so cute. Why would I deny people that? Because the danger is too much. I said this a million times. You've probably heard me say this, Isaac. We just err on the side of caution as parents. If you know that there's a predator that lives in your street, you're not going to send your kid out alone to the park. You know, you err on the side of caution when it comes to anything, except for this for some reason. And even though it's so unseen, you do not know the type of person who's watching your child and what they're doing with that content. And those who do know, and some of them do, what they do with that after is even crazier, because some of them do know what's being used with the content and they don't care. That's to me like, oh my gosh, how do you sleep at night?
It's terrifying. I mean, it is. And I could keep talking about it because we're so adamant about it, and we just don't budge on it. I mean, we'll show bits and pieces of Scotty that are what I would call irrelevant. I mean, truly, it's just like, it's almost like it doesn't matter. And it's just something I'll never budge on.
Good for you.
And Allie and I, this is the good thing though. Allie and I are so incredibly on the same page about it. Like, there's no world where we'd ever budge. It's just not worth it.
I love that. I respect that.
Well, it's also funny because you reached out when we posted the video at a year. Allie posted a video showing Scotty, which, by the way, it was an interesting situation because there's both sides to it, where when you don't show them, people are just as crazy as when you do show them, just in different ways. So we kind of wanted to just be like, all right, guys, like, you know, we're not doing this. We're trying to protect her, not hide her, if that makes sense. But it was interesting because you messaged me after and you were like, hey, people are on my forums or whatever, like asking me to talk about this. How often are you reaching out to creators, warning them or like talking to them like that?
Every day. I will message a creator before I do a video about them every single time. Sometimes I'm a little bit heated because of what I've seen in the content, and I'll be like, hey, F you, welcome to the show. Or I'll be like, hey, how can I convince you not to exploit your child? Like, what can I tell you? You know, dad, sometimes I'll reach out and be like, dad to dad or parent to parent. Like, do you know that this is dangerous? Often I'll say, do you know? And then often I'll just end up being blocked. But some people will have a conversation, but never have I seen one that's like, hey, I'll think about this. It's never that. It's always like they try to justify it in every single way. When I messaged you, it's just because I get so many messages. But even in that case, like, if you think about this, I've always had the stance that if your kid's in passing, if your kid's, you know, at a soccer game and you're vlogging from there, I have no problem with that. Like, I honestly don't believe that there's a problem with even showing your kid if they're, you know, a world-class athlete getting on there doing their thing. As long as you don't know about their personal life, you don't know anything that's crazy about them. When, again, periods, birthdays, you don't know anything. If it's just like, hey, look how good my kid is at football, that's I have no problem with that. I honestly don't. It's when you get into the personal details and your kid becomes your paycheck. And if you can't, if your kid is shouldering the responsibility, the financial responsibility of your family, you're doing it wrong. You are parenting wrong. And that should never be on a kid's shoulders ever in a million years. That's too much pressure for anybody, let alone a kid.
And furthermore, just like when parents take ads around their kid, that's what really, that's where I truly like, I'm like, all right, I actually am not like, this is wrong. When you're doing an ad that is 100% about your kid, I actually worked with a company, I won't say the company, and we don't show it's a kid company, right? Like a baby product. And we had a briefing call and they literally gave instructions for if you show your kid, or really when you show your kid, because we were one of the few people that don't. When you show your kid, do this, this, and this, and this. And I'm like, this is crazy. This should not even be like, you know,
and often the bonus, often you get more if you show your kids.
And that's crazy.
I had an influencer on who would stop showing her kids. Her name's Shaylee. She's really great, really early on my channel. And she'd been reached out by brands, and the brand said, hey, you get like literally 30% more if you use your children in ads.
Yikes.
So the industry knows then it's lucrative, and that's why no one wants to stop it.
It is lucrative. But all right, Josh, thank you for coming on. This would be really interesting to see how people respond. I really hope that it starts a great dialogue. I hope people listen and they feel like it was a healthy conversation, because I definitely don't think this was a one-sided conversation. I think there was, like, we talked about some valuable things, and I'm glad I pushed back on you. What does it look like in 5 years? Like, you're not going to stop doing this, obviously. It would be crazy if you did. What do you think that Josh looks like 5 years from now?
I think when I think of future, I think of how old my kids are going to be in 5 years. And my oldest, biological kid's gonna be 17 at that point. And what am I gonna tell? I'm a YouTuber. My kid already thinks it's cool, but will she think it's cool when I'm 17? I'm hoping in 5 years the law's caught up and influencer culture changes to the point where putting a kid on the internet is like so taboo that no one does it anymore. I honestly hope that that's where it is.
Right.
And if that's the case, I've already got plans to pivot to other things anyway as I'm talking. I love true crime. I love Annie from 10 to Life. She's one of my YouTube BFFs, and we've been friends for a long time. And I'd love to pivot over to that eventually. I think over all the things, I'm glad this stuck and I'm glad it is there. But over all the things, I think that people come from my opinion on things. And whether it's the jokes, the laughs, whatever it is that comes out of my brain, I think the humor is one of the biggest parts of what I do. And as long as I stick to that, I think the sky's the limit for me. I think I want to continue doing really cool stuff and always seeking justice in some way or another. That's one of the big drivers of my heart, is to seek justice, regardless if it's for me or people who don't get justice. And maybe that's pie in the sky or whatever the case may be. But it's just, I have such a drive to see people get their comeuppance that have wronged other people. I don't know why.
Well, you know what they can't say about you? They can't say that you don't have good video and audio.
That's true.
It's always the crispiest.
That's true.
So, wow, that's like ASMR on steroids. All right. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. Again, this is for all parties, right? These conversations are complicated and risky, right? It's not always clean, and that's not how it should be. So I appreciate you coming on, and yeah, this is going to be great. Go follow Dad Challenge Podcast on all social.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you.